What's up, y'all, and happy Monday. I hope everybody out there is happy and healthy. So with that said, let's go ahead and get down. So I want to talk about these Epstein Files yet again because the information just keeps pouring out. And so the new revelation that has come to light is the fact that Harvey Levin of TMZ has been mentioned in the Epstein Files. And that's very interesting to say the least. Now, back in November of 2025, Harvey actually took to his platform to explain his relationship with Donald Trump over the years. Now, when I saw this clip back then, I felt like he was getting in front of something, but I just didn't know what. Now, a lot of people commented and said that Harvey was making that video because he was probably implicated within the Epstein Files. I want you guys to check out this clip of Harvey talking about his relationship with Donald Trump, and then I'll be back.
I'm going to tell you something about my relationship with Donald Trump that tells me he knew a lot about what Jeffrey Epstein was doing back in the day. So let's just start with these emails where Epstein says that Donald Trump was the dog that didn't bark, meaning Donald Trump knew something that was bad, because Epstein even references cops in that email. So this is not an innocuous thing that Donald Trump knew but hadn't yet talked about. It's bad. And then you have Epstein sending an email to Ghislaine Maxwell back in 2011 saying that Donald Trump spent hours at his house and that with one of the victims, it was Virginia Giuffre. And Ghislaine says, yeah, I've been thinking about that. So there's no evidence in these emails that Donald Trump himself did anything wrong. But there is clear evidence that Donald Trump knew some of what Jeffrey Epstein was doing, and some of it was bad enough that the cops were involved. So now my relationship. I knew Donald Trump for many, many years. When he was doing The Apprentice and I was starting out with Celebrity Justice back in 2002, all the way through the time when he became president, we talked on the phone a lot. And he was a gossip. He loved to gossip. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I mean, a lot of people gossip. He loved it. And look, I don't think I'm the only person who's saying this. I mean, people who knew him, reporters, he just loved to gossip. And I have to say that when you deal with him personally, he is a very charming, personable, and even funny guy. That was kind of our relationship when I would call him about a story or whatever. And so, I'll give you an example. I remember there was one time when Donald Trump, I was actually in his office, and he pointed out the window to a building, and he said, I'm not going to name the person because I have no idea whether this is true or not, but a very famous person would bring women to the apartment building and have sex with them. So that was a gratuitous comment that had nothing to do with why I was there, but he just liked to gossip. So, the idea that Donald Trump would wall himself off from something scandalous that Jeffrey Epstein was doing and not want to know about it, I'm sorry. I'm just not buying it. And I don't think many people are.
All right, so we just heard what Harvey had to say about his relationship with Donald Trump over the years. And Harvey, quite frankly, endorsed Trump back in 2016. Now, a lot of people are saying that he endorsed him again, but it's not clear because Harvey has not been vocal about his endorsement for Trump this go around. But still, he did support him in 2016. And a lot of people are pointing out the fact that Harvey knew these things about Donald Trump in 2016, but yet you still endorsed him, right? And so in my estimation, that means that Harvey felt that there will be no release of the Epstein Files, or he was going to be a part of covering things up. And we're going to get to that in a minute. But first, I want to show you the comments from this particular video. All right, so you have a person that says, why didn't you say this years ago? Another person says that Harvey voted for Trump, which is true. Then someone else states that Harvey's in the files. And then another person asked the question, why is TMZ protecting Trump? And the comments just go on and on and on, so you guys get the gist. So now what I want to do is insert a couple of clips of people talking about the fact that Harvey is in the Epstein Files, and then I'll be back.
In more Epstein Files news, TMZ founder Harvey Levin has been named in the document. Described as a good friend who could help run a global PR effort to defend convicted pedophile Jeffrey Epstein and smear his victims and accusers. Now, this would make a lot of sense when you think about how, in the past, TMZ has reported on, Jeffrey Epstein and the potential releasing of Epstein Files. But ever since the files have been released, TMZ has stayed very quiet, which tells me they probably didn't have any confidence that the files were even going to be released. That's why they felt comfortable, keeping people on the edge about them. Yeah, we can make all these posts and make it seem like, we care, make it seem like, we want the files just as much as everybody else, because deep down we feel like they're not going to come out anyway. So we might as well cover our own behinds and make it seem like we're on the outside looking in just like everybody else, when the whole time our hands are dirty too. As the email says right here, from Mike Citrick to Jeffrey Epstein, Wednesday, March 9th, 2011. Tried to call you. Harvey Levin, who runs TMZ, is a good friend. They haven't reported on this at all, but I might be able to get him to do something on the Duchess and her backpedaling. Epstein hit back and said, okay, with leaking to British press, but think we need to get a statement out. So yeah, they was all up in the files, running plays, They like, hey, I know somebody, Harvey Levin runs TMZ, good buddy of mine. Whatever it is we dealing with or going through, or there's potential of what we got going on being blown up, let's get the story to him, let's have him run a PR play, and we cool. So granted, this isn't saying that Harvey Levin participated in the activities going on Epstein Island, but this does say that he potentially protected what was going on Epstein Island, which to me is just as worse. Yeah, you may not go to the island and participate, but you're well aware of what's going on that island. You know it's wrong, and when they call on you to to keep the eyes away from them, you participate, you offer your services. And as of right now, TMZ has yet to report on the releasing of the Epstein Files. It's so crazy because there are people out here who begged for Epstein Files to be released. I didn't say it here, but I said to my lady a long time ago, because she's deep into like politics and stuff like that. I'm not really a political guy. I get on here, talk about hip hop, sports, wrestling, and stuff like that. But I told her, I said, baby, they gonna dangle these Epstein Files over y'all head for years. They're never going to release these files. It's just funny seeing people on social media who wanted these files so badly. Now that they got the files, or what's alleged to be the files, now they want to, that's not true. That's not true. That's bogus. That's fake. You beg for the files, you got some files, and now you don't believe the files that you got? You believe there's another set of files? Or do you just not want to condemn the people that are being named in the files that got released? And now you got attitudes with the people like me who are making content on the people named in the files. You got attitude with us while we just reporting on what we see. Again, man, I've been seeing it all day. The hypocrisy has got to stop. If the names in these files were people that you already didn't like, your foot will be on the gas just like mine is right now.
All right, so you guys just heard them describe Harvey as a good friend who could help run a global PR effort to defend convicted pedophile Jeffrey Epstein and smear his victims and accusers. That is wild, and I agree with the brother there. That is worse, just given the fact that you had common knowledge that Trump actually was affiliated with Jeffrey Epstein somehow, and yet you remained silent about the situation for all of these years. You knew that Trump had knowledge about what was going on Epstein's Island, and you said nothing, and you still voted for him in 2016, which is his right as an American to vote for whoever he wants to. But the real reason why he didn't say anything about this particular situation involving Trump and Epstein, in my honest estimation, is the fact that he was just trying to protect his friend. And where I come from, we don't protect those types of friends. As a matter of fact, all ties are severed, and you might get fucked up. Now, another thing that just crossed my mind is the fact that Harvey might have supported Trump on 3 separate occasions, back in 2016 when he endorsed them, again in 2020, and again in 2024. We don't know about 2020 and 2024, But since 2016, there has been a bevy of information that has leaked that has connected Trump to Epstein, and he's on video, the video I just played you all, laughing about their relationship and how Trump liked to gossip. He's still glowing over Trump with this knowledge. It's just sad. But anyway, let's move along because some information just came in stating that Donald Trump is going to sue Trevor Noah for the joke that he made last night at the Oscars. So what went down is Billie Eilish won the Song of the Year, and this is what Trevor Noah had to say.
Song of the Year. Congratulations, Billie Eilish. Wow. That is a Grammy that every artist wants, almost as much as Trump wants Greenland. Which makes sense. I mean, because Epstein's island is gone, he needs a new one to hang out with Bill Clinton. So, oh, I told you it's my last year. What are you going to do about it?
Now, I bet you guys can guess who was the first to report this. None other than TMZ. But yet, they don't mention anything about Trump connected to Epstein, right? So this is what Trump had to say about the Grammys. He said the Grammy Awards are the worst, virtually unwatchable. CBS is lucky not to have this garbage litter on their airwaves any longer. The host Trevor Noah, whoever he may be, is almost as bad as Jimmy Kimmel at the low ratings Academy Awards. Noah said incorrectly about me that Donald Trump and Bill Clinton spent time on Epstein's island. Wrong. I can't speak for Bill, but I have never been to Epstein Island, nor anywhere close, and until tonight's false and defamatory statement, have never been accused of being there, not even by the fake news media. Noah, a total loser, better get his facts straight and get them straight fast. It looks like I'll be sending my lawyers to sue this poor, pathetic, talentless dope of an MC and suing him for plenty of money. Ask George Slodopoulos, I know I botched that, but it is what it is today, and others how that all worked out. Also ask CBS. Get ready, Noah, I'm going to have some fun with you. President DJT. Now, I will say the one thing that I liked about Trevor's joke is the fact that he's holding both sides accountable. Not only did he mention Donald Trump, he also mentioned Bill Clinton, and that's my ideology too. I don't care whether you're right, left, liberal, I don't care. If you are complicit in harming youngins, adults, to the magnitude of what's being explained in these Epstein files, then all of you need to go to jail. All of you need to go to prison for an extremely long time. Now, as far as Trump threatening to sue Trevor Noah, it's not out of the realm of possibility that he would do something like that. So we will just have to pay attention to see where this goes. But what's catching a lot of heat right now is the fact that Kendrick Lamar won a lot of Grammys last night. I've been told, I didn't watch it, I wasn't interested, but it's very clear and evident that he had himself one hell of a night, and he actually won Best Rap Album. Now, what's interesting about all of this is the fact that Kendrick is catching a little bit of heat because he shouted out Pusha T during his acceptance speech, and we know that Pusha T was named in the Epstein Files, and people are calling out Kendrick for even shouting him out.
Hip hop, as usual, man. I'm not good at talking about myself, but I express it through the music. It's an honor to be here. Tyler, the Clips, like these are my brothers to be in this category. What's up, Push, man? Malice, man. Every time I tell you this, hip hop is gonna always be right here.
All right, so the conversation has already began on X as it pertains to Kendrick giving Pusha a shout out at the Grammys. And this person says, after winning Rap Album of the Year, the first thing Kendrick does is whisper in the ear of Anthony Tiffith, J.R. Musa of TDE, the same guy currently being sued for SA, harassment, and doxing the women involved in the case. And shout out to Pusha T just 48 hours after this egregious accusations came to light. No ice pick, no nothing. This N don't stand on S. Congrats on passing Jay-Z though. Then another person says Kendrick giving a shout out to Pusha T after being exposed in the Epstein list just shows that whatever these men try to morally preach means absolute S to them. Then someone else chimes in and says Kendrick shouting out Pusha T, let me know everything I need to know. Now, I want to take the time to read you what it says as it pertains to Jay-Z and Pusha T being in the Epstein files, right? And I'm going to start with context of the release. It says the Department of Justice released these documents as part of the Epstein Files Transparency Act, which mandates the disclosure of nearly all materials related to the investigation. This includes raw, unverified tips from the public that were never corroborated by law enforcement. Now, let's focus on Bill Clinton, all right? And I'm going to start with FBI records. It says files released in January of 2026 revealed the FBI previously investigated allegations against Clinton connected to Epstein. though some were deemed not credible at the time. Now let's talk about Trump, and I'm going to start with unverified allegations. It says the files contain an FBI form detailing a 2016 complaint from an anonymous woman, Jane Doe, who accused Trump of R-ing her when she was just 1'3". The Doge explicitly labeled such claims in the release as unfounded and false and sensationalist, noting they were submitted shortly before the 2020 election. All right, so let me just say this. I'm a fair individual, and I'm going to bring you the truth. A lot of people don't like that. They like a certain narrative, and so they go elsewhere to follow the narrative that they like. And so even though I don't like certain individuals, it's facts over feelings. I'm not going to sit here and try to push a narrative to fit how I'm feeling about that particular person. And yeah, I know that they could be withholding information and lying to us. I don't trust the government either. But at the same time, what else do we have to go off of? What are we gonna do? Just sit here and make up shit? And so when you open up a hotline for people to call in and report things on certain celebrities, so forth and so on, you think that everything that's being reported is actually true? There could be other artists and other celebrities and other politicians reporting on colleagues and peers of theirs just off of the strength that they just don't like that particular person. So potentially they could have called the hotline anonymously and gave a false tip that never checked out. Now, you know what's interesting about the Epstein Files, and I just thought about this last night. Diddy is not nowhere to be found in the Epstein Files, y'all. He's not. Now, up until this point, he hasn't been named in the Epstein Files. I'm pretty sure that he could be, so let me just say that, but he hasn't been named so far. And I believe if he was named, his name would have been the first to be put out there based off of his lack of a relationship or lack of support that he has for Donald Trump. Now again, Diddy deserves to be where he is right now. This is not me taking up for somebody, but there was a lot of conversation about what Diddy was doing that didn't pan out during the trial and he wasn't found guilty for. And then the same thing that Jay-Z and Pusha T has been named in the Epstein Files for. You would think that Diddy would be somewhere around, right? But he's not. Now, when you take a look at Trump, it's a little bit different because he's named on the flight log list of Jeffrey Epstein so many times. He appears in the Jeffrey Epstein Files over 1,000 times. He's been found liable for SA when it came down to E. Jean Carroll. And so with that verifiable information, the overall consensus would be that Trump had a real deep connection to Epstein, right? Jay-Z and Pusha T were named one time within the Epstein Files. And now some people within the black community feel like they got a I told you so moment. And you don't, because the tips were unverifiable. They were unverifiable. There were certain tips that were unverifiable for Trump, certain tips that were unverifiable for Bill Clinton, Jay-Z, Pusha T, so forth and so on. Not everything that they reported is absolutely factual when it comes down to some of the tips that were called into that hotline, right? They're just not. But anyway, what I want to do right here is point you to what Lizzo had to say about the situation, right? And it really resonates with me because I've been feeling this way for quite some time. I've been crucified in the comments for just being honest about how I feel, right? Whether I like the person or not. And so I'm going to leave you guys with this. I'll encourage you to drop down in the comments and let me know what you think about everything that was discussed. Don't forget to like, comment, share. And if you're new here, consider subbing to the channel. I'll get with you guys later. Have a beautiful day.
One more thing before I go into glam. This Epstein Files shit, I have to, it's really frustrating to me because there are 3 million files, right? 3 million documents in the files, because over the course of however long this man has been doing these crimes, every email, every text message, everything, just in general about this man's life has been put into these files to scan for illegal activities, right? Every text message you sent to somebody. If you stole an apple from Walmart and you were on trial for stealing an apple from Walmart, is every person in your phone an accomplice? Is every person in your phone, is every email you sent to a person or speaking about a person, does that make that person complicit? Does that make that person a bad guy? No, it doesn't. It's the same thing with the Diddy stuff. I told y'all, the media is so smart. They're going to make you so distracted with celebrity names that you're not going to focus on the problem. You think every party that Diddy ever threw was a freak off and people were slipping and sliding on baby oil? No. That man had birthday parties. That man had Easter gatherings. That man had Super Bowl parties. That man had Christmas parties, Halloween parties, regular parties. And so now they're saying Mom Donnie's mom, who's a filmmaker, they're like, oh, she's on the Epstein list because she was on a guest list for Ghislaine Maxwell's like showing of a political film once. Hey, you're distracted. You just want Mom Donnie to be a bad guy, or his mom that was can go to a movie premiere. You think Ghislaine Maxwell woke up every single day children? No. We're losing the plot. And it's just like the American people in the comments. I knew she was wrong. Jay-Z, I knew he was. What did it say Jay-Z did? He was there in 1996. Come on, people. Like, y'all are falling for it. It's the easiest, oldest trick in the book. And honestly, I'm losing faith in the average intelligence of the American person. Because, come on. Just because somebody's name is mentioned in a 3 million document file of a person's life who's been lived over crimes who've spanned decades, doesn't mean that every single person isn't an accomplice. He could be mentioned. He referenced Jay-Z once. He was like, oh, we could learn from Jay-Z's business model. Why are y'all? Where's the crime? Focus. Anyways, y'all.
Tough News TV. We out.